Okay, I have no idea how in a week where really there are not that many teams playing, we are dealing with this many injuries, and this many of them are coming down until Sunday. So I decided to wait as long as I can to make this video. That way I can give you the most up-to-date injury updates that we have so you can fix your lineup for Sunday. And of course, we're going to be live streaming tonight. I'm going to be live streaming tomorrow morning. I've live streamed every single day for over 100 days in a row. So I know if you're watching this as a live stream right now, you're already subscribed to the channel. You already have hit that bell next to the subscribe button. But make sure if you are not subscribed for whatever reason, you fix that, hit the bell next to it so you can come out to our live streams. You can definitely get involved with what we're going to have and just answering start sit questions. Also, make sure you go to Underdog Fantasy, check out some player props. I mean, they have a ton listed for this Sunday. I can actually pull them up right now to kind of show you what I'm talking about. This is probably something I should have set up before we went live, but it is what it is. And over there on Underdog Fantasy, if you go check out some of these player props, use promo code FLOCK. A, it supports the channel a ton. B, at the same time, you get a max deposit bonus with a $10 deposit. And I promise you, nothing supports this channel more. I mean, if you enjoy the fact that we live stream every single day, and we've done so over 100 days in a row, make multiple videos every single day at the same time, go use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. Find the link in the live chat. Find that in the description of the video. That way you can make sure you get that max deposit bonus when you check out those player props. And also check out Patreon, where we have our up-to-date rest of season rankings over there. And our dynasty rankings will be updated very, very shortly. I promise you I'll get that done today. So let's go through and let's get this going. And let's start our first injury update here with Darren Waller. Thank God we waited this long to get this live stream going, because Darren Waller was someone that was not a player you had to be worrying about an injury at the beginning of the week with, but he actually popped up on the injury report today with an ankle injury, and he is listed as questionable. Now, keep in mind, I mean, we kind of had a very similar scenario happen 2 weeks ago with Courtland Sutton going up against the Pittsburgh Steelers, where Courtland Sutton wasn't someone that we were concerned about the injury with at all, because it didn't exist until at Friday. He ended up rolling up on his ankle, and we didn't necessarily know what to expect that Sunday. I mean, I told a lot of people to bench Courtland Sutton because that ankle injury. He comes out, has a monstrous performance, his best day of the year. So with Darren Waller, I mean, knowing that this is still an elite tight end option, I think that we're just going to be good to go, and we're probably going to continue to monitor this. Obviously, right now, it's trending as if Darren Waller is not going to play. But if there's any chance that he does, I think we have to put him in our starting lineup. But it's never a good sign when someone gets listed as a late addition to the injury report. So it sucks to say, if he plays, we're probably going to be putting him in our starting lineup just because the amount of volume that he gets every single week. But there's a real chance that Darren Waller misses on Sunday. So it's something you're going to have to continue to monitor. And if Darren Waller does miss, bump up Hunter Renfrow, bump up Henry Ruggs, just because they're going to have to throw the ball through the air to somebody, and it's probably going to lean on those wide receivers. Now, our next piece of news is Damian Williams officially listed as a good to go this Sunday. He was taken off the COVID list, and this makes it where, no, you're not excited about starting Damian Williams, but at the same time, you cannot go through and start Herbert. I mean, Herbert has been a running back that we were talking about. While, yes, I mean, you're very happy if you started him a week ago. Clearly, that was someone that had the workload where I believe he saw 20-plus touches in that contest. He came out crushed with over 100 rushing yards. But, I mean, even earlier this week, whenever people were asking us if we could start him again against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I was saying, no. Even if Damian Williams was going to miss, and you would expect that Herbert saw every single touch out of this backfield, he was still a running back that you could not consider playing, because you're looking at the matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as the worst matchup possible for any running back in particular. Now that Damian Williams is going to be back as well, they're going to split this backfield 50-50. The last thing you could do is go through and play either Herbert or Williams. I know that we have the bye-pocalypse, but I promise you, you can find a better option elsewhere. Do not start Herbert. Do not start Damian Williams. Now, our next player, we're actually going to talk about a pair of teammates here, T.Y. Hilton and Parris Campbell. So Parris Campbell officially undergoing surgery. This is going to be a wide receiver that essentially is shut down for the rest of the season. Not going to lie, with Terrace Campbell, I mean, I really thought that this was a great value in fantasy drafts when you were getting him at the very end, because with Terrace Campbell, I mean, he was an impressive prospect coming out of Ohio State back in that 2019 draft class. Now, he was never able to stay healthy, but we were trying to get excited saying, well, what if there is a possibility that he can just have a fully healthy season and possibly be the wide receiver 1B to Michael Pittman's wide receiver 1A, and he was going like 6 rounds after Pittman. So I was saying that, I mean, I actually really wanted to be drafting Terrace Campbell, but clearly this is someone that I just has something wrong with him yet again, getting shut down for this season. But at this point, everybody had cut Terrace Campbell off their individual rosters. It's more so how it impacts the other wide receivers here. And T.Y. Hilton also being out just makes this where it's a must start spot for Michael Pittman. Not the best matchup against the San Francisco 49ers, but the volume will be there as Carson Wentz has nobody else to go to. So you 100% need to be playing Michael Pittman when you will have no Terrace Campbell, you will have no T.Y. Hilton. Now, our next update will be over with Dawson Knox, who reportedly is actually going to be out 3 weeks. Of course, we knew that Dawson Knox not playing this week. This is someone on a bye. I mean, but going after here, if he's going to miss another 3 weeks, Dawson Knox is not someone that you can go ahead and cut, just given the fact that he was a mid-tight end one before the injury. But it just is something I have to discuss, in that if Dawson Knox does miss a considerable amount of time here, there's really no other tight end on this roster that I'd expect that is going to get that same level of target share in this offense or that same red zone role. So I think you would be bumping up what you may get from Emmanuel Sanders. I think you may be bumping up what you get from Cole Beasley, even though it sounds stupid. Trust me, I understand it. I think that if there are just more targets available in this offense where they know they're moving the ball down the field regardless. I mean, it's not like without Dawson Knox, they're not going to be able to pick up first downs. I think you have to bump up the secondary wide receivers in Buffalo. Now, our next pair of teammates will be over in San Francisco, where we've had updates with both Jeff Wilson and JaMycal Hasty, where JaMycal Hasty coming in this week, and I think that he's going to play over Trey Sermon. I mean, based what we saw back in week 2 and in week 1, where in week 1, Trey Sermon was listed as inactive. He was a healthy scratch. In week 2, he did play after the injury to Raheem Mostert. But he was actually 3rd on the depth chart for this 49ers team, not only on the official depth chart, but more importantly with the way they were being used in the offense and how they were getting touches. You clearly had Elijah Mitchell as the running back 1. You had JaMycal Hasty as the running back 2. Trey Sermon all the way down at the bottom of the list. So Sermon, you cannot consider playing him. Honestly, a player that you may be able to consider going through and cutting, even though the most recent report on Jeff Wilson, not that encouraging. I know we've had a lot of people saying, oh, Mason, should I go through and drop wide receiver X so I can pick up Jeff Wilson and stash him for when he comes back? Well, the most recent report with Jeff Wilson saying he's probably not going to come back until late November. Even if he does come back, there's no guarantee that he is the second running back on this offense. He could easily be playing behind one of JaMycal Hasty or Trey Sermon. So Jeff Wilson, unless you can hold him on your IR, probably not a running back that you need to be dropping anybody for to get him off the waiver wire. Now, our next running back, this is going to be someone that we have to continue to monitor for pretty much, I don't even want to say all the way until kickoff on Sunday, because he's playing on Monday. You may have to monitor all the way until Monday night. Alex Collins, who did not practice on Friday. Reportedly, you have Rashad Penny as the starting running back for the Seattle Seahawks. You have no idea how much I love Rashad Penny. If you are a new member of the channel, trust me, I'll just fill you in on exactly how stupid I am. We looked at that Rashad Penny prospect profile coming out of San Diego State back in that 2018 draft class alongside Nick Chubb, Sony Michel, Ronald Jones, Saquon Barkley. I mean, we all know that running back draft class that had so many polarizing players in it. I thought Rashad Penny was a can't-miss prospect. Back in 2018, I was screaming that he was someone you wanted over Alex Collins. Back in 2019, I was screaming he was someone you wanted over Alex Collins. Back in 2020, I was screaming that if he was going to be able to make it back healthy, he was going to have a role in this offense. Of course, with Rashad Penny, this is not someone that can stay healthy. And at the same time, we have not seen the commitment by the Seattle Seahawks coaching staff to actually use Rashad Penny as the lead running back in Seattle. So although there's nobody that would enjoy watching Rashad Penny be the bell cow running back in Seattle more than I would, still, I'm not going to be willing to go out there and just jam him into our starting lineup, knowing that it's probably going to be really hard to predict that level of usage. Even if Alex Collins does not play, I think this may turn into a committee between Rashad Penny and DJ Dallas. And in that instance, I think we're just looking at a committee backfield and one of the worst offenses in football. I love Rashad Penny, the player, but we're probably not going to be able to start him regardless. And I don't think you can rely on starting Alex Collins at this point, because we're probably not going to get the clarity on if he is going to be playing or not until Monday. And I mean, obviously you don't have the luxury to be able to make that pivot through, and it's a low ceiling offense regardless. So you cannot plan on starting Alex Collins at this point, because even if you get that right, the floor ceiling combinations are low to begin with how bad Geno Smith is. So yeah, avoid every running back in Seattle. Now, a couple positive things to report. Terry McLaurin officially not on the last injury report that you have here. Terry McLaurin 100% good to go. No worries here. This was someone clearly dealing with that injury a week ago against the Kansas City Chiefs. That's why, I mean, our call looked really bad on how aggressive we were with Terry McLaurin in what should have been a high-scoring game between the Chiefs and the Washington football team. I think you have to be a lot more excited about Terry McLaurin now. This week, have him as a top 10 wide receiver. Jerry Jeudy also will return week 8. So I hope that you listen to me, and before Thursday night, you sold Courtland Sutton, you sold Noah Fant for that premium you could have gotten. I still think you have that potential, because people aren't really necessarily understanding how Jerry Jeudy is going to impact the rest of this Denver Broncos offense, and that Jerry Jeudy will come in. He will be the wide receiver 1A to Courtland Sutton's wide receiver 1B. This is not a high enough passing volume, or the efficiency isn't even there for this offense to be able to support Sutton, Jeudy, and Noah Fant as weekly starters for you. So I think we will go through and we will try to sell high on Courtland Sutton, try to sell high on Noah Fant, knowing that Jerry Jeudy will have a ton of usage. Now, going back to some negative reporting, I mean, Trey Lance, he's not even going to be active this week. I mean, with the knee injury, y'all know Trey Lance was a quarterback that I loved. We were coming out talking about Trey Lance potentially being the quarterback 1 in this rookie class, coming out saying that he was a way better fantasy option than pretty much anybody else, given the fact that he had that elite rushing upside. We saw that rushing upside just demonstrated a week ago. 2 weeks ago, whenever he did get the start over Jimmy Garoppolo against the Arizona Cardinals, had almost 100 rushing yards. So he had a great fantasy day, even though he was horrendous in real life. But yeah, I think Trey Lance at this point, probably someone we can just go through and cut. I mean, it sucks to say, but if Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be fully healthy, clearly the Trey Lance 1-game sample does not necessarily want to make Kyle Shanahan have that switch early on. This is a team that's looking to be competitive right away. I still think Trey Lance is the starter by the time we get to the fantasy football playoffs. But with that being said, as of now, probably a spot that in a 1-quarterback redraft league, just go through and cut. You're better off rostering another running back, better off rostering another wide receiver. Now, our next piece of news will be Chase Edmonds officially not on the injury report for this game against the Houston Texans. Now, this definitely puts a hindrance on your excitement for James Conner, who had 16 carries a week ago in a matchup where they just completely blew out the Cleveland Browns. You'd imagine that this game flow is very similar. The current spread on this game between the Houston Texans and the Arizona Cardinals is actually 17.5 points. It's the largest spread of the season. This game's not going to be close at all. So I think with Chase Edmonds in particular, a running back that you can't necessarily be that excited to go through and jam into your starting lineup, looking at him as a guy that won't necessarily get the usage in the receiving game if they can decide to lean on the run, if they're going to be leading this game by just the majority of the game by multiple touchdowns. So I think with Chase Edmonds not being on the official injury report, while yes, you're probably having to start him, just given the fact that we currently do not have Najee Harris, Dalvin Cook, Ezekiel Elliott, Austin Eckler. I mean, we know everybody out on bye this week. Probably have to start Edmonds, even though you're not that excited about it, and you're even less excited about James Conner now. Now let's go over to Baltimore, where we do have Sammy Watkins and Laviska Shenault both listed as out. I mean, if you're going to be looking at both of these players, definitely not options that you were intrigued in starting in your own lineup. But now this does make it where Devonta Freeman is someone you can consider. Now, I had to tell about 2 or 3 people in the live stream last night to go through and play Freeman, even though it's a disgusting call, even though you're trying to avoid every single running back that you can in Baltimore, because clearly this is going to be a 3-man backfield split, 4 running backs if you want to include Lamar Jackson with the rushing production that he himself will have. So you're not excited about playing Freeman, but if you were just desperate playing in a 14-team, 16-team league, and all of a sudden you have a couple of those key running backs on bye, say maybe you drafted someone like Christian McCaffrey in the first, Najee Harris in the second, and you're like, okay, well, Mason, I have nobody else at running back, then sure. I mean, you may have to play Devonta Freeman at your running back too, but you're not excited about it. But you are a lot more excited about Hollywood Brown. You are a lot more excited about Rashad Bateman. I think Hollywood is a solid top 24 wide receiver this week in a matchup where they will have to push the ball down the field against the Cincinnati Bengals. I think Rashad Bateman is someone that you can consider putting in your flex if you're dealing with the multitude of buys, just given the injury that you do have to Sammy Watkins, opening up snaps and opening up targets for Rashad Bateman in this offense. So yeah, they are not necessarily players you want to consider in Latavius Murray or Sammy Watkins in your lineup yourself, but them being out definitely makes an impact on some of the other players in Baltimore. Now, our next piece of news is Terrace Marshall officially out with the concussion, and we have had so many questions in the live streams about Robbie Anderson. Mason, can we consider starting Robbie Anderson? Mason, can we put Robbie Anderson in the starting lineup? I'm like, oh my God. What have y'all seen from Robbie Anderson to make you think that this is okay so far this year? Because with Robbie Anderson, it's not like you've seen him be incredibly efficient, not necessarily have the role that you would look for, and you're going, crap, if just this is someone that can see more snaps, if this is someone that can see more targets in this offense, he could be fantastic for a fantasy football perspective. And even with that, I mean, with the loss of Terrace Marshall, it's not like Marshall's leaving behind that many targets. It's not like Terrace Marshall is someone that's going to be giving so much production to Robbie Anderson. Terrace Marshall, so far through 6 weeks, has had 21 targets in this offense. He's not even averaging 4 targets a game. Like, what are you expecting from Robbie Anderson? And y'all know I am always the person to say, chase the volume, chase the volume, chase the volume. We know the talent level of a player. We can use their historical efficiency to predict what we're going to get with the current role that they have in their offense, with their offensive environment. But I don't want to be chasing the volume with Robbie Anderson. This is someone that this year has had 40 targets through 6 weeks, and he is currently a mid wide receiver 7. Yes, you heard me right. He has less points than Donovan Peoples-Jones in fantasy this year. Donovan Peoples-Jones has 15 targets compared to Robbie Anderson's 40. Robbie Anderson doesn't need more volume. Robbie Anderson just needs to be a completely different wide receiver. And I know a lot of people are concerned about the matchup that DJ Moore has defensively lining up against a shutdown corner. Well, what did we say with DJ Moore a few weeks back whenever he was going up against Trayvon Diggs and the Dallas Cowboys? What I said was DJ Moore is not that prototypical alpha X wide receiver playing on the outside that will get shadow coverage by the opponent team's top cornerback. No, DJ Moore is a flanker wide receiver that's going to get moved all over the football field. That is fantastic, but he's not the traditional X. So 9 times out of 10, that player isn't getting shadowed. That's why against the Dallas Cowboys, against Trayvon Diggs, one of the best defensive backs in the NFL, I mean, there was just no hiccup. DJ Moore came out here and crushed. There's no reason at all for you to go through and start Robbie Anderson. Robbie Anderson was someone that we called a must-start player back in week 1 against the New York Jets because we just had completely different expectations for him coming into the season. And, I mean, we got lucky that he scored 13 fantasy points, but that was off of 1 reception. That was a long touchdown, and as soon as we identified that we got lucky with that, Robbie Anderson was a clear sell, someone that you never wanted in your starting lineup, never wanted him to come close to that range. I don't know if there are like people out here talking in videos, talking in podcasts, writing articles or something, talking about Robbie Anderson being some great play because you don't have Terrace Marshall. No, you do not need to be looking at it like that. You just need to be looking at a player that is very disappointing. He's had the opportunity. He's had the volume to begin with. Just because all of a sudden he's going to get slightly more with no Terrace Marshall, it's not like he's a completely different wide receiver. Now, our next situation will be the New York Giants, and dear God, they should be essentially called the New York hospital beds because here, Kadarius Toney out, Kenny Golladay out, Saquon Barkley out. I mean, Darius Slayton, questionable. Evan Ingram, questionable. I mean, Slayton probably going to play. Evan Ingram looks like he maybe re-aggravated the calf injury earlier this week. So this kind of tells us, fire the hell up Sterling Shepard. I mean, here with Sterling Shepard, he had 14 targets a week ago against the Rams once Kadarius Toney left this game. And with Shepard, this is someone that knows not going to be incredibly efficient with those targets. He has an average, his average depth of target is considerably lower than the league average. And to go along with this, with Sterling Shepard, we just know with his athletic profile, the big play potential, not necessarily there. It doesn't matter, though, if you can project to see 13 to 14 targets in a given matchup, especially in a PPR format, because we go through and, with those 14 targets last week, Sterling Shepard was pretty disappointing. He only had 76 receiving yards with 14 targets and no receiving touchdown. But it didn't matter from a PPR standpoint because he had 10 receptions to go with those 76 receiving yards. So that's almost 18 fantasy points. That is 100% a mid-wide receiver too. So you have to start Sterling Shepard everywhere, sit Daniel Jones everywhere, however, just because this will be a very tough matchup with none of his weapons. Now, a couple other Notable points: Antonio Gibson officially good to go. Now with Antonio Gibson, this running back that we hated a week ago against the Kansas City Chiefs, we actually told a lot of people over the past 2 weeks now that Antonio Gibson was a clear sell high candidate, but people have been panicking with the capital P after this game against the Kansas City Chiefs, where you had J.D. McKissic getting a considerable workload. Just because, I mean, it's exactly what you would have expected against the Kansas City Chiefs. They put up a ton of points at the very beginning, which ends up leading this team to be trailing the entire game, and J.D. McKissic clearly is the passing down option. Antonio Gibson dealing with the shin injury. They don't need to risk it with Antonio Gibson if they're down multiple touchdowns to begin with. Antonio Gibson, not a great matchup this week, but still someone that you're expecting to be a low-end running back to, even though he clearly is not going to get to the upside that we thought he potentially had coming into the year if he was going to be able to take control of the receiving down role from J.D. McKissic. Still someone that you have to be pretty excited about with what we have in his exact role now. Now, our last pair of teammates will be Rob Gronkowski and Antonio Brown. And with Gronk and Antonio Brown, these are two options that obviously you would have had in your starting lineup if they were good to go, but they're both listed as out against the Chicago Bears. I mean, with OJ Howard also questionable, so probably not wanting to play him. I will say if you're looking at Chris Godwin, if you're looking at Mike Evans, both of those players are options you're putting in your lineup every single week regardless, as well as Tom Brady. Not the best matchup against the Chicago Bears, but with both Gronk and Antonio Brown out, I mean, probably you should be going through and just have the usual path that you would with this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. Start Brady. The floor ceiling combination is too damn high. Start Fournette. Start Chris Godwin. Start Mike Evans. Nothing really changes. And yeah, I think that's probably all we got for this live stream. I think we covered every single injury. Thank you so much, of course, for coming out, supporting the channel. You know we will be going through and we will be talking about some of these injuries and start-sit decisions tonight at the same time. I can go through and show y'all one more time some of these props that they currently have on Underdog Fantasy. Please make sure y'all go support the channel. Use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. Nothing supports this channel more. Find that link in the live chat. Find that in the description of the video. These are available in damn near every state. I think the only state that they are not available in, Washington State, Nevada, Louisiana. Outside of that, maybe there's one small one like Wyoming, but they're available in pretty much every single state that I did not list. They also have some fantasy football drafts you can go get in. Use promo code FLOCK. Help this channel out a ton. Find that link in the live chat. Find that in the description of the video. And also go check out our rest of season rankings over there on Patreon. Our dynasty rankings will be updated today as well. And yeah, that's all I got for you. Thank you so much for coming out to the live stream. I hope I see you in the live stream tonight. Make sure you drop that like, subscribe to the channel. And yeah, I'll see y'all in probably